Hi guys, and welcome to 123 My IT's video on how to build your very first mining rig. So what is a mining rig, I hear you ask? Well, a mining rig allows you to mine cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. These cryptocurrencies can then be traded for goods and services and real-world cash such as USD. I get a lot of questions about mining and mining rigs, and I'm still new to this, so if there's anything that I've missed, please feel free to put it in the comments section below. Okay guys, so let's have a look at the components that we're going to actually use in this mining rig. So we've got the EVGA Supernova 1000 G2 gold power supply, and this does exactly what it says on the box. It supplies power to the rest of the components. Something that I should mention now is with the rigs you're actually burning electricity in order to generate your coins, which then allow you to get a return. So if you're in a country that has high electricity costs, then this option is probably not for you. However, if you can get a cheap supply of electricity, either you have solar panels on your roof of your house, or you have some other access to a cheap supply of electricity, then going this route might be beneficial and profitable for you in the long run. The other thing I just want to mention at the moment too is obviously burning electricity does cause some environmental impacts, so you should just probably be aware of that as well when you're starting out with a mining rig. One other thing guys, if you're not comfortable building a rig or you don't want it hanging around your home or wherever you live, then what you can actually do is just use the money to purchase the Bitcoin or the Ethereum straight from the market. Okay guys, so the next on the list are the GPUs. So here we're looking at the Sapphire Nitro Radeon RX 570 4GB. Now I've gone the 4GB cards because it's good to mine Ethereum with. Now these are the GPUs. These are the bits of hardware that we're going to use to actually mine the cryptocurrencies. We've got 3 GPUs or graphics cards or video cards, whatever you want to call them, and the motherboard that we're going to use actually supports up to 6 of these cards. So let's take a look at the motherboard now. Okay, so here's our motherboard. It's a Gigabyte H110-D3A. Now I'll put the links for all these products in the description below, so you can check those out if you want more detail on them. So this is the motherboard, and what it's going to do is it's going to seat the CPU, and we're going to use riser cards to attach the GPUs to the motherboard. Okay, and the last few products that we're going to use here, we've got the crucial 8GB DDR4 2133 memory, and that's going to attach to the motherboard. Also a Celeron G3930. Now we're using the Celeron because it's low on power. Okay, so it's not going to use a lot of power because we're going to be running the rig 24/7. You want to try and save as much power as you can, so that makes this setup more and more profitable. Last thing we're going to also use is a couple of these riser cards. Now, I've never actually tried these before, but let's hope we don't have any problems. There is some reported you do occasionally get a bad riser card. Okay guys, so last but not least, the stand. Now this is definitely one of the most important parts of your rig. So initially I wanted to go ahead and build the stand out of this aluminium piping. Well, I was actually walking around and someone was throwing out these chest of drawers, and as you can see the bottom here, that was like one long drawer along the bottom that you would pull out, and then it had 2 smaller drawers in between that with some more drawers stacked on top, and it was just the perfect size. So what I did is I cut the top off the stack of drawers, and I've used made a few little modifications to sit the cards in across the top, and hey presto, we've got a really cheap nice looking stand for everything to go in. The other thing is as well with this is there's more room for expansion later on, so if I decide I want another motherboard or power supply on the other side there at the bottom, I can do that, and I'm going to basically sit the cards across the top. So saves it going into landfill, so it's good for the environment and it's good for the hip pocket as well. Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead and start setting up the motherboard first. So we're going to put the RAM in. We're going to put everything on the board first before we put the board into the rack. So that just slides in like that, 8GB of RAM, and that's pretty much all there is to do with that part. Now if you want to go cheaper, you can actually get a 4GB of memory. That will also do. And the next part here is our Celeron CPU. So CPU slides out from the side here. You can see that there. And also comes with a fan, a stock fan, which will be fine. Don't need to buy anything extra. It's already there, ready to go. It's already got the putty and everything on the heatsink. So heatsink and fan. Actually, I'll take that out so you can have a look. Fan on top, and just going to pop it in here. Need to push down on this little lever here, then slide it back. If you can see that there, kind of pops up. Flip this one back, and then remove our CPU, and we're going to drop it just on that spot there. So you can see there's little divots on either side as well, which allows us to match up the CPU. One here and one on the other side. Let's see if we can find those on the board. So the CPU will only really ever go in, fit in snugly one way. Pretty straightforward. I'm just going to pop this down. This bit of plastic will just pop off. And needs to go all the way down. And this screw here at the front of the motherboard needs to just push that down and lock it into place with the little lever there on the side. Alright, you're good to go. Okay guys, so the next step here is to put your fan in. So there's a little cable here which comes with the fan, and that needs to plug into the motherboard to give power to the fan itself. So if we pop that on the motherboard like so, and just make sure that the little lines meet up, and then we're just going to push it in, lock it into place. Pretty straightforward. We've designed it really well, and just kind of locks in like that. You can see the little port there which says CPU fan, this one here, and we're just going to drop that cable on there. Now the other thing too is this cable can sometimes get caught in the fan as it's spinning. You hear that? See that? Hear that? And jam up your CPU fan. So if this is untidy, maybe just take the cable out and move it around somewhere like so, or tie it up in a knot like that, and then just pop it back down directly on the board, and then that way it won't get caught in the fan. Okay guys, and the next step here is we need to add in a power button or a power switch so that we can turn our rig off and on. Now obviously, because I found the frame on the side of the road, it didn't come with a power switch because it's a set of cupboards, so you'll need to buy this as an extra if you're building your own frame. You can see on the side there it says power switch, and we're just going to use the little marker on the back of here and pop that into our power slot there, and then we'll be able to turn our rig off and on. Okay guys, so the next step here is to mount the board on the frame. So to do that, I'm going to use these little spacers. So this is going to sit on the frame, then the motherboard is going to sit on top of the spacer, and then this screw is going to fit down and tighten the motherboard to the spacer. So there'll be a little bit of a gap along the bottom of the motherboard which will keep it off the wooden frame. Okay guys, so I've screwed the screws into the motherboard there. You can see there that I've got the spacer on the motherboard. So it just keeps all those little soldered parts underneath the motherboard there off the wood, and it's good to go. It's worked pretty well. I haven't over tightened the screws. What I've done is just leave it so it's just snug and the motherboard doesn't actually move around when you touch it. Didn't want to over tighten it because you never know, it might crack the board or do something silly. Okay guys, so the next step is to put the power supply in. So just going back to the power supply as well, it's a 80 plus gold, which means it's a really efficient power supply. So hopefully this will be all that we need when building the rig. I've already kind of made a space for the power supply at the back here. So that power supply will just drop in like that, and we're good to go. Okay guys, so we've added our power supply at the back there. Now the cable for the power supply will just come from this side and then plug in there. And then we've still got access to our switch here if we need to turn it off at the power supply or turn it back on at the power supply. So the access is really good. There's still quite a lot of breathing room in the rig itself as well. At some stage when I get some cable ties, I will actually cable tie the power supply to the rack itself, so if it gets bumped or anything. But at the moment it's pretty stable, and no one's going to be moving it around. Okay guys, so the first one we're going to plug in is the CPU cable, and it tells you on the cable here itself. So we plug that into our power supply and then up to the system CPU at the back here. Okay, so we've plugged that one in, and I've purposely left a bit of space down underneath the rig here with the feet of the rig there. You can see here on the side, just so if we do have any cables, we can actually run them down underneath and keep this quite clear. Okay, so the next cable here is the motherboard cable, so pretty much the same thing again. Okay, so the motherboard cable has been plugged in here and just plugs into the top of the motherboard there. So the next step here is to take out the GPU. So in this case we're using these RX 570s Sapphire Nitro Plus. The reason why I chose these cards is they're meant to be very good with doing the hashes, which is what you'll use to mine your cryptocurrency. And they also have different power connectors here, so if you need to change your power connectors around, you've got the option of the 8-pin or the 6-pin. So the next thing we need to do with these cards is plug in our riser. Now a riser is what sits the graphics card off the motherboard. So we're literally just going to plug in our riser to the bottom there. You can see you can only really slot it in one way, and that's going to click in like that. Also on the bottom of the riser cards, it's got like this felt there, so if it touches anything metal or any power, it's not going to cause any sparks or anything like that, so it's pretty nicely designed. On the back of the riser, we've got our 8-pin connector as well, which we also need to plug in, and then we will plug that into our power supply. You can see it there. Then we also have a USB connector on the other side, and plug it in like so. Now, I still haven't decided on how many GPUs that I'm going to put in the rig here or where I'm going to stack them. So I'm actually not going to screw them down at this stage. So that's how our GPUs are just going to sit across the top here, and we've still got some more room on the other side if we want to add more GPUs at a later stage. So then the other part of the riser card is the USB, which plugs into our PCIe Express port, and we're going to use the USB to connect to that. This now connects down to our motherboard in our PCIe Express port, like so. Alright, you can see there now how that's been slotted in to the PCIe Express port there. Okay, the next power plug to plug in here is the power plug for the PCIe riser card, which is this one here. So we're just going to plug that into the end of that card and then plug it into the power supply. Okay, so it's the same deal again with the next graphics card, and it will be the same with the third graphics card. So we just plug it in, pull back the little switch there and plug it directly in. Alright, and then you're good to go. Okay guys, so the next step here is to plug in our VGA cables into the top of our cards here and then down into the power supply. We're just going to push it in like so. Make sure this other side pushes down properly, sometimes they're a bit funny. Guys, so we've got all our power plugs plugged in at the top there with our GPUs, our Sapphire RX 570s ready to go. And actually for my first build I'm pretty happy with how well it's come up. It's actually quite tidy in the rack, and actually looks pretty good. There's some more room there for more GPUs and things on the side there, which I'll add at a later stage. But I think it's come up quite nicely. I didn't want to tie these GPUs down just yet because I'm still trying to work out how many I can fit in the top of the rack here. So for now, I'll just leave them sitting there as they are. Next step here is to put in our hard drive. So what I've got here is a little USB key with Windows 2 Go on it. That will go in the front, and that will be our hard drive, so it's cheap, energy efficient, and we'll also plug in a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse, and we'll see if this thing boots up first go. Okay guys, so we've plugged the power cable into it at the back, and we've also plugged the monitor in, and the mouse and the keyboard. So it's the moment of truth, and let's see if all our hard work paid off. And nothing. Okay, and second shot now that we've plugged the power in properly. There we go, we've got lights. We've got fans on all GPUs up top. Really cool little orange light here on the motherboard. I never noticed that before. Let me see if I can get a better look at that for you guys. That's pretty cool. Goes right around the bottom of the motherboard too. Awesome. Let's have a look at the Sapphire fan starting up there as well. You can see they're spinning away. And so far so good. We've got movement on the fan down here as well. Another thing which I've been really impressed with is this speed of this SanDisk USB 3 drive. So that's got Windows to go on it. I might do a video at some stage to show you how to put Windows on there. But Windows has started up now. It's actually pretty quick. I'm pretty surprised actually at how fast it is. But anyway, let's go ahead and start the hashing. Okay guys, so the rig's up and running now. So the first thing in Windows to check would be the device manager, and just make sure you've got all your graphics cards showing up in here. So under display adapters, you can see there we've got our 3 graphics cards, so we're good to go. Now, without going too much into the mining process, basically what you need is you need a program to do the mining, and then you need a wallet. Then once you have these 2 things, you can start mining. I'm going to use NiceHash because NiceHash is like an easy way to get started with mining. We'll just kick this off and see how many mega hashes we can get out of it. Once we open up NiceHash, we can hit start and start mining. It's going to want to do a benchmark first, so we're just going to go yes to benchmark and put a tick in start mining after benchmark. We'll let that benchmark run because it will take a little while to run, and we'll come back to it. Okay guys, so the NiceHash has started up now. It's finished with the benchmark. You can see down here it's showing our speed. So we're getting about 82 to 83 mega hashes in total for the card, and that is for the Dagger library file. Bringing in about $5 a day. And if we have a look over here, you can see that it's actually mining Ethereum as well as the library or LBC. So 83 mega hashes, you can see there, about 27 per card. So if we were just mining Ethereum only, it would be a little bit higher, probably around about 29 mega hashes. And then you can see our total speed for the LBC. Each card was putting in about 79, and 79 mega hashes for the library coin. Okay guys, so after making some mods to the cards, I'm able to get about 29 mega hashes Ethereum mining, and dual mining at the moment. You can see here I'm getting about 27.5 mega hashes from each card, and about 820 mega hashes from the DRC decreed mining as well. So all in all, a pretty good result. I did have some issue with the USB drive though. For some reason it was causing an issue with the miner. Something to do with the 16 gig size that you needed to have for the miner to operate properly. But we seem to have sorted that out. I've changed it over to a SATA hard drive, and that seems to have resolved that issue. Okay guys, so we're just checking the power usage on the rig again. So it's at 526 watts at the moment. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it from me. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching guys. Bye bye.